and Silk wasn't about to let that slide. When the moment came, Silk handled it. He put 2 bullets in Gary's head and dumped his naked body in Rock Creek Park.
What? DC, PG County, they don't care, bro. They will lose their life. I mean, they'll take a life over 10 cents. So what you think they'll do for their freedom? Hey, what it do, my official boy? AyeeMont. Look, y'all, we got a story that's in at home. You know what I'm saying? I'm not from DC, I'm from PG County, but hey, you know what it is, man. Look, we got the goons of the 1980s Washington, D.C. Now, if y'all don't know, 1980s was a, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I'm learning too as this video goes on, but it's about the era, man. It's about the era of the Rayful Edmonds, you know what I'm saying, when Alpo came to D.C., probably Teflon Sean and them, Kevin Gray. If you know, you know, man. If you know, you know. It's a lot of names that I'm missing, but if you watch Paid in Full, this is the reason why Alpo kept saying he wanted to go to DC, because he know it get real over here in DC, man. But without further ado, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. On the road to 50K. Let's get right into the video. Uh-oh.
The homicide rate in the district continues to climb.
Drugs have permeated our entire community.
It is happening at every school. It is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
You could just be walking and you just that bullet can just hit you. Bullet don't got no name.
Nah, for real.
The United States can manage to go into Panama and get Noriega, but they can't stop the inflow of drugs into Washington, D.C.
Of course they can. Because D.C. is not what y'all think it is.
Crack, heroin. What else?
Marijuana.
Nothing left.
Ain't.
You did the gamut.
Yeah, I did it all.
Marion Barry was arrested last night at the Vista Hotel
Hey,
in downtown Washington.
hey, if y'all don't know, Marion Barry, real life got it. He used to do coke, bro. He realized he used to do coke, bro. So you know what I'm saying? Like, this is my first time actually watching it. I heard it through my parents and stuff that the mayor used to do coke, but hey, put your hairs on the wall. Like, imagine arresting the mayor.
Back in the mid-'80s and early '90s, out-of-towners were always looking to expand their hustles, and one of the biggest targets was Washington, D.C.
Chocolate City, baby.
D.C. was in complete chaos. At the time, it was known as the under-capital of the U.S., and for good reason.
It was that too.
The streets were on fire, locals were trigger-happy, and teenagers hungry for respect wouldn't think twice before pulling a gun over the smallest slight. Seeing a dead body in the street became so common that people barely reacted anymore.
Damn.
They don't know what will happen next when we find a body laying in the alley. Maybe wake up one morning, there'd be one on your front porch.
Residents were afraid to step outside because you never knew when a stray bullet could come flying your way.
Oh, DC was this bad. I thought 2023 was crazy.
Because you never know, you could just be walking and that bullet can just hit you.
Robberies, carjackings, and violent crimes were an everyday thing.
It wasn't just homicides. Incidents of carjackings were also through the roof.
Harvard Street.
8,291 in 1989.
That's uptown.
The crime reached a peak in 1992.
And the root of all this was drugs. DC had a massive drug problem, and with that came a surge in crime unlike anything the city had ever seen before.
So what was fueling this surge in crime? Drugs, mainly crack, an epidemic that gripped not just the district, but nationwide. The drug trade was brazen. Open-air markets flourished with hundreds of buyers and sellers.
They didn't seem to be worried about police or neighbors.
Here's a crazy little fact. The Washington Bullets, DC's NBA team at the time,
the Wizards now
changed their name because of how bad things were. The team owner felt like Bullets was just too connected to the city's out-of-control violence.
Damn, so that's why they changed the name?
Something that felt more energetic.
For real? Like, that's real like, wow. So they was the Washington Bullets, but niggas was doing too much shooting on the street that they was like, all right, we gotta change the name. We gotta change the narrative. Hey, y'all, I ain't gonna lie. If you my age, did you, like, my peoples told me this. They said that the boulevard is where the Washington Bullets used to play back in the day, bro.
The Washington Wizards. But behind all this madness was that there were key players, kingpins, drug lords, gang leaders, and straight-up cares who shaped this era and kept the streets in turmoil.
It was Hoopers in the drug game?
Behind the scenes. Let's check them out. Starting off with Rayful Edmond.
Rayful Edmond, the snitch.
Coke in Washington D.C.
But he did bring everything here.
Years old, he wasn't just a hustler. He was a full-blown drug kingpin, running one of the largest coke operations D.C. had ever seen. With over 150 people working under him, his empire was pulling in an unbelievable $300 million a year.
Damn!
When crack was the hustle here in the nation's capital back in the 1980s,
I see that. All right, so I see why all you old heads used to sell drugs back in the day. Shit, $300 million a year? Nigga, I ain't even making $300 million a year. I ain't gonna lie. You can put me and the next 50 niggas together, and we still ain't making $300 million a year. And then back in the old days, y'all ain't really had no good jobs. Like, I remember Ace Out the Cleaners, he was making $75 a week. You know what I'm saying? $75 a week. What you gonna spend that on? You can't even go buy your girl nothing with $75 a week. So I don't blame y'all for selling drugs in the 80s and 90s, bro. Like, I don't salute y'all, but I don't blame y'all. You feel me?
Absolutely nobody worked harder than Rayful Edmond III.
Rayful Edmond III, the biggest drug dealer in the history of Washington, D.C.
Damn.
Sold some $300 million a year worth of and crack.
Rayful ran his business out of Northeast D.C., locking down prime drug spots,
Where was Rayful
including
from?
the strip between Morton and Orleans Place and 4th
duh.
Street
Yeah, I
and
knew
M
that.
Street.
I knew that.
These weren't just random corners. These were strategic locations with built-in escape routes, perfect for his crew to vanish if the police got too close. His grandmother's house on M Street became the nerve center of his operation, where raw coke was cooked into crack.
He brought that shit to his grandmother's house?
Streets. With demand skyrocketing, he needed manpower. Rayful's crew expanded fast, enforcers armed to the teeth, sellers pushing product around the clock, and young lookouts paid to keep an eye on police activity. Even his own family was involved. Business was
so them young lookouts probably like
addiction crisis.
40 now.
His operation was moving nearly 1,700 kilos of Colombian coke every month, a pipeline that ran straight from LA to the streets of DC. On a busy night, Rayful's crew was making 30 sales per minute. That's $750K in a week and $2 million a month. But big money brings
30
big problems.
sales per
and with
minute,
Rayful's
bro.
success came violence. His crew was linked to at least 30 MDers, all in the name of protecting territory and keeping power.
Police say the Edmond organization enforced its will with violence. As many as 30.
Then, on April 15th, 1989, everything came crashing down. Rayful was arrested at his girlfriend's house in D.C. His downfall started when 4 of his men were busted in L.A., trying to buy $1 million worth of coke from an undercover federal agent.
Ooh, that's where they get you at, man. You know them undercovers back. And I'm pretty sure back then it was probably so hard to like now you know what an undercover is, bro. Like the way he looking, the questions he asking, you can tell an undercover cop what he got on. He tried too hard, like he tried to fit in too much, bro. So like imagine one of these niggas in the Mary jeans, bro. Like come on, bro, you an undercover cop, bro. Or one of these one of these guys with like some Cartiers on, like bro, come on. You trying too hard, bro. You trying too hard.
Once they got caught, they started talking, and the feds quickly realized they weren't dealing with just any street-level operation. They had just cracked open the empire. Rayful's trial was like something out of a movie. Over 100 witnesses testified against him. It was also the first ever anonymous jury in DC history because of how dangerous the case was. Bulletproof glass had to be installed in the courtroom to protect jurors from potential attacks.
Hate to be a juror. Jury.
Guard. Their names are
shit. I would have told them niggas I'm scared. I'm scared. I ain't testing. I'm not doing Nathan.
Was MD'd in a drive-by shooting just days before he was supposed to testify.
I told you.
His home was firebombed just to send a message.
I told you.
In fact, the house of the family of one.
That's one thing you don't do. You don't snitch on the kingpins. I'm not gonna let me tell you about the DC niggas, bro. And I'm pretty sure this has been like that since before time. DC, PG County niggas, they don't care, bro. They will lose their life. I mean, they'll take a life over 10 cents. So what you think they'll do for their freedom? What you think they'll do for their freedom? They'll take your life over a pound of weed. Fuck that. They'll take your life over a zip of weed. What you think they'll do for taking their freedom away? Shit, me, you couldn't pay me to snitch on a nigga.
Witness was firebombed.
Couldn't pay me to snitch on a nigga.
Another key witness has refused
He
to
wouldn't even make it to see the money.
The government wasn't taking any chances. Rayful was held at Quantico Marine Base in Virginia for his own safety and flown into court by helicopter every day.
Damn.
But when he saw the overwhelming evidence stacking up against him, he made a desperate move. He snitched. Reports say Rayful's cooperation helped take down over 100 people.
Damn.
Some even claim it was closer to 300.
I swear all the biggest drug dealers snitch, bruh.
For a man who once ruled the streets, he was now seen as the ultimate traitor.
Damn, Rayful
Edmond have the biggest cooperation I've ever seen in history.
Damn.
What do you mean?
He told on over 300 people.
300 people? How you even remember that?
Cooperated. Your son went to go see
what was Kevin Gray? Was Kevin Gray?
Around 16 years old at the time. And you guys
I seen this interview.
About the whole Rayful cooperating situation.
With somebody that he, really, looked at as, as a family member, you know what I'm saying? And it really affected him what he did.
After 5 days of jury deliberation, the verdict was in. Guilty on all counts. Rayful was sentenced to life in prison without parole, serving 2 concurrent life sentences. But here's where it gets crazy. Even behind bars, Rayful somehow kept his hustle going. Word on the street was that he made more money locked up than he did when he was free.
That can make sense.
Far beyond the prison walls,
because niggas be probably itching for the.
What drugs you dealt with in prison? Crack? Heroin?
Heroin.
What else?
Marijuana.
Damn.
Fast forward to recent years.
He's just a nigga that got love for the game.
After decades in prison, he was quietly released.
I do remember him being released.
Those who saw him said he seemed in good spirits, ready to leave his past behind. But just a few months later, news broke that Rayful had suffered a fatal heart attack. Next up is Kevin Gray. When people talk...
You telling me this nigga did a heart attack after spending all them years in prison? No. The CIA probably killed that nigga, bro. You know what? Let me take that out the video before they come get me. Hold on. Yeah, let me take that out. Let me take that out.
Ruthless DC kingpins, Rayful Edmond's name always comes up. But Kevin Gray was on a whole different level. Law enforcement described him as vicious as John Gotti, more ruthless than Rayful Edmond, and as violent as Al Capone. His reputation was built on brutality and fear. Kevin was the nephew of Linwood Big Boy Gray, an alleged kingpin with deep ties in the game. Not much is known about Kevin's early life, but by the time he was 14, he was already in the streets learning the game. But unlike most hustlers who stuck to drugs and money, Kevin took things to a whole new level. Besides moving massive amounts of coke, H, and marijuana, Kevin was also deeply involved in Emder. A lot of Emder. When he was finally taken down, the charges were beyond insane. Kevin personally pulled the trigger in 5 Emders. He ordered hits on at least 10 more. His crew was charged in 31 homicides. He eliminated witnesses before they could testify. He offed rivals and the rivals of his rivals. By the time the feds built their case against him, Kevin and his organization.
And you gotta think, back in the day, in the 80s, it wasn't like now. You go uptown, Northwest DC, it's a camera on every block. It's a camera in front of everybody. Like, it's a camera on in them alleyways you be creeping through and stuff like that. People got them joints in their backyard, bro. They got them through the alleys. They got them on every street. Bro, you gotta think, Northwest homes be $1 million, bro. Back then, they probably wasn't $1 million, but they probably was the most expensive. You know what I'm saying? And my fault for earlier, y'all. This guy right here. Hold on. Where we at? We at 903. That's Kevin Gray. The dude earlier I showed on this right here. This Tony Lewis. My fault. This Tony Lewis Sr. But yeah, I'm sure about Kevin Gray too. Hold on. Where was we at?
By the time the feds built their case against him, Kevin and his organization were one of the most feared groups in DC. His empire stretched from Capitol Hill to Congress Heights, with tight control over the drug
and you wouldn't
trade
even believe this all happened with a
tactics.
president
When
state,
it was
bro.
all said and done,
I wouldn't be
Kevin
surprised
Gray
if they
was
wasn't
facing a
selling
mountain
to the
of
president.
charges: racketeering, conspiracy, drug-to-efficking, and multiple Emder counts. And it looks like he's holding up well behind bars. His former cellmate, Steve Crawford, mentioned that he's staying vibrant and full of faith.
You know, and man, he's strong and ever, man. He's vibrant and ever, and he's full of.
Oh, this DC Blacks.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. He was funny. He's super funny. Got all the stories in the world.
I mean, cause he probably
Next
learned.
up is Alpo Martinez. By the
Now, everybody, I know I'm talking too much, y'all. This is gonna be my last time talking. I'm gonna let the video play. Everybody, if you know everybody that sold drugs in the 80s, like I got uncles and I got like aunts that was not lookouts, but you know the females used to do a little bit of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Nobody liked Alpo, bro. Nobody liked him, bro. Like, nobody liked the guy, bro. They didn't like him because imagine somebody like walking your trap, try to take over your trap. You know what I'm saying? He coming from New York, Harlem. They don't even know the greasy shit that he did. He came down here and tag team. He picked a ruthless. You know what? I'm gonna let it play.
1980s in New York City, drug dealers weren't just making money. They were the superstars of the streets. Forget rappers or athletes. If you had money, power, and respect, you ran the game. And when it came to running the game, Alpo Martinez was one of the top dogs. Alpo wasn't just making moves in Harlem. He was expanding his empire, setting up shop in places like Washington, D.C.
He was geeking to go to D.C. and pay the fool.
Alpo was living flashy. He wasn't just about making money. He wanted everyone to know he had it.
Alpo liked good things, nice things, but wow, get a motorcycle, buy a brand new bike where the crowd is at, do wheelies, crash it, and the next day go buy another motorcycle.
But in the streets, loyalty is everything, and one act of betrayal would change everything for him. On January 3rd, 1990, Alpo did something that sent shockwaves through the game. He offed his own man, Rich Porter. Rich Porter was Alpo's right-hand man, a legend in Harlem, and one of the most respected hustlers around. So what happened? Alpo started believing Rich was lying to him. He thought Rich was holding out on a drug connection, keeping the good product for himself while Alpo was getting leftovers. It didn't matter that they'd made millions together, or that Rich had always been solid.
Don't let money come between you and your man.
That night, Alpo set up a meeting. Rich got into the van. Alpo locked the doors. As I was pulling off, I was asking him, "Yo, Rich, where did you get that coke from?" "That ish was good," Alpo later recounted, "because I wanted to make him comfortable." Then he shot him.
I was asking him like, "Yo, Rich, where did you get that coke from, man? That shit good, because I wanted to make him comfortable. That shit good as a." He's like, "I got it from my connect." From there, I knew he was lying. I turned to my little man. I gave him the nod.
Oh,
yeah. The nod, my little man spent, because he was short, so he could stand up in the van.
You talking about little Gary?
Next thing you heard was 2 gunshots. Bang, bang.
I was very mad, Alpo admitted years later. I just offed a dude that I loved, a dude I called my brother. But
you don't give a damn. You just killed your motherfucking man, nigga. You don't
exactly
give a damn.
how many
hear that
people Alpo
bullshit,
offed,
bro.
that number will probably never be known. By 1991, Alpo's luck ran out. November 7th, 1991. Most people remember that as the day Magic Johnson announced he had HIV. But in D.C., that was the day Alpo Martinez got taken down. The FBI had been hunting him for a year. When they finally caught him in Southeast D.C., Alpo was looking at 14 Emder charges.
Alpo doing it Southeast.
Rich Porter and Rich's 12-year-old little brother William. Death row was a real possibility. Alpo had a choice: sit in prison for life or snitch. He snitched.
You know what he did.
In exchange for cooperating with the feds, Alpo's sentence got cut down drastically. Instead of death row, he did a little over 2 decades and was released in 2015. But the streets never forget. Alpo was back on the scene and moving around Harlem. But on October 31st, 2021, he was gunned down in Harlem, shot multiple times in his Dodge Ram truck. No one was shocked. Everyone knew it was coming. Next up is Wayne Silk Perry. Silk wasn't just a shooter. He wasn't just a killer. Silk was the K-er. They called him the Michael Jordan of the Emder game. Not just because of his numbers, but because of how effortlessly he did it.
This guy, Wayne Perry, was considered the Michael Jordan.
You know what you gotta do to be called the Michael Jordan of the murder game, dude?
In DC.
But you gotta think it's a lot of Wayne Perrys in DC back then, bro.
As a kid, he was so good at basketball that it seemed like he could go pro.
Oh shit,
but the
he was
streets
good at
called
ball.
louder. Crime was easier, and crime paid now. By the time he was 12, Silk was already deep in the game. He started as a lookout, signaling when the police came. In return, the older hustlers taught him everything: how to gamble, rob, steal, hustle. By 13, he was fully in the streets. By 16, he robbed his first bank.
Hey, where Wayne Perry from?
Silk had a taste for violence. Once, someone joked about taking his chain. Silk offed him. In 1984, he caught his first Emder charge. He went to prison, got out in 1987, and instead of slowing
he did
down,
3 years for a body? That's it? 3 years for a body?
leveled up. He became a full-time hitman. No drive-bys, no sloppy work.
Walk up
Silk
on you
walked
personal.
up on his targets, put the gun to their head, and handled business. His reputation became so terrifying that no one dared to testify against him. Witnesses knew if they snitched, they wouldn't make it to court.
He'd be laying in
But
your
Silk
bushes.
wasn't just a lone wolf. He had a crew. A team of stone-cold K-ears who followed his orders without hesitation. Then he linked up with Alpo Martinez. Alpo was getting money. Silk was making bodies drop. Together they were unstoppable. Alpo made sure Silk and his crew were well taken care of. Cars, cash, Versace clothes, luxury living. Silk was riding around in a Mercedes-Benz 560, living like a king. Everything was going perfect, until it wasn't. When Alpo got arrested and started snitching, he didn't just give up random names. He gave up Silk. With Alpo's testimony, Silk was done. The government hit him with everything. 5 life sentences. Next up is Garrett Terrell. By the 1980s, Washington D.C. quote, S streets were full of hustlers trying to make a name for themselves, and Garrett Big Head Gary Terrell was one of them. Like most kids in the game, Gary started off robbing people. That was his entry point, sticking people up, getting fast money, and making a reputation. But robbing could only get you so far. The real money was in drugs, and Gary knew that. Once he got into the drug trade, he started moving different. He wasn't out there hustling on street corners, he was thinking bigger. His thing was moving weight between New York and DC, but he wasn't running it in beat-up cars or taking dumb risks. He moved smart. Gary had a system. He rented limos to transport bricks. While the feds and stick-up boys were looking for beat-up Hondas
Yeah,
or
nobody
Cadillacs,
going, yeah, I feel
Gary's
that.
product was riding in luxury. And the plan worked.
Because if they think you, if they see you in like luxury limos, you gotta think back then the only people that can afford that is athletes, probably like the movie stars and like, you know what I'm saying, the president. So they probably thinking he riding swift. That's smart, big head, Gary. You got a big head for a reason now.
Stacked his bread up fast. After a while, Gary was sitting on millions. That meant he
Damn.
started running in different circles. That's how he got close to Alpo Martinez and Wayne Silk Perry. Now, Gary was making major moves, but something about the situation didn't sit right with him. See, Alpo was the boss, and Gary didn't like that. He didn't like how Alpo was calling all the shots. He felt like he wasn't getting the credit he deserved. In his mind, he had put in the work, but people were acting like he was just another player in Alpo's game. Gary had what you call a Napoleon complex.
So you telling me this little nigga right here that looks about 14 years old is a threat to society?
Little dude, about 5'2". But if you underestimated him,
5'2"?
he'd send you to your grave real quick.
He was about 5'1", 5'2".
The fuck?
Real slim in the body and a real big head. Okay. But he was getting money though. People didn't know he was getting money. He had a real short man complex.
We got little nigga
When you
syndrome.
dealt with Gary, you had to handle him with care. Say the wrong thing, he'd take it personal. Look at him the wrong way. That might be your last day on Earth. He had a short fuse, and when he got mad, the first thing he reached for was his gun. But for all his money and power, Gary had regular problems too, like relationship drama. He had a main girl, the mother of his child. But of course, he had side chicks too, and he got caught up with them more than a few times. Now, his main chick didn't just sit back and take it. She wanted her lick back. So what did she do? She started messing with somebody close to their circle, Andre Johnson. Andre wasn't some random dude. Gary did business with him. That made it disrespectful. And worse,
that
she
was his
didn't keep it
plug.
quiet. She let it be known. Now, stepping out is one thing, but doing it with someone you know.
See, it's
that's
always
straight
the
up
it's always the
disrespect.
bitches.
Gary
It's
wasn't
always the
having it,
bitches.
but he
It's
wasn't even
always
mad
the
at her
bitches.
like that. The real problem was Andre.
It's always the
Andre
bitch.
knew that was Gary's girl, and in Gary's mind, that was a violation. Now, Alpo...
You motherfucking tender dick ass niggas. You is mad at a nigga for fucking your bitch that wants to get fucked. Like, how do that even work in today's society or even back in the 80s? I'm thinking it's just today that they was doing that, but I guess every war start over either money, drugs, or women. You mad at a nigga for fucking your bitch. Because he know that's your bitch, but it don't even matter because that's your bitch stepped out on you and went to go fuck another nigga. You should be mad at the bitch. Not the nigga fucking her.
tried to play peacemaker. Alpo didn't want beef messing up his money, and Andre was spending $400,000 a month with him.
Damn.
Plus, Alpo wasn't sweating it because he was hitting Andre's girl too. Basically,
Wait,
everybody was
hold on.
smashing everybody's girl.
Okay.
And Andre knew about it, but he kept it cool.
'Cause
So
he
to
don't
keep the
care.
peace, Andre backed off. He stopped messing with Gary's girl, and that should have been the end of it. But the problem was, she was in love, and she started lying. She started telling Gary they were still messing around. Now, whether Andre really was still messing with her is debatable. If he was bold as hell to keep doing business
So
with
it's
Alpo
always
while Gary
the
was
lying
around. But either way,
motherfuckers.
Gary believed it. So one day, Andre met up with Alpo, and he never made it back. That was Andre's last day. After that, Gary fell back from Alpo. The trust was broken. They threw each other under the bus, and their partnership started falling apart. And then, it got even worse. Gary and Alpo started working on a major drug deal. We're talking 100 kilos of coke, and the total price was $6 million.
$6 million.
Alpo was putting in $1.5 million. Gary was putting in $500,000. The other $4 million would be paid after they flipped the bricks. But Gary had other plans. He wasn't looking to split the money. He was looking to take it all. Gary planned to off Alpo and walk off with his $1.5 million and all the
Hey,
coke.
Gary, a
That was
sneaky
easy
nigga.
money.
Hold
The
on.
only problem was that Silk found out about the setup.
Man called me down from law and he said, Gary told him that, yo, that you want to put this deal together and it ain't gonna go, you know, he gonna wind up doing you in the process.
Oh, shit.
That's how much anger he built up from me.
And Silk wasn't about to let that slide. When the moment came, Silk handled it. He put 2 bullets in Gary's head and dumped his naked body in Rock Creek Park.
What?
Handled it. He put 2 bullets in Gary's head and dumped his naked body in Rock Creek Park.
So he hit him in the head.
Hold the fuck up.
Hit twice. Down. Gary, he winds up, he winds up on himself. From his muscles. He'll take off his clothes, man, for they won't spot him through the clothes and all that. Take off his clothes.
I'll take freak shit y'all on.
In the woods.
That was the end of Big Head Gary.
So you telling me you shot the nigga, stripped him, and left him in Rock Creek Park? Oh my goodness, you niggas is demons, bro. You niggas in the 90s, 80s, I don't give a damn. You niggas was crazy. You stripped a nigga, left him naked? What's wrong with y'all?
Up as Marion Barry. While the streets were dealing
Marion
with
Barry.
Indians, Washington, D.C.'s mayor, Marion Barry, was going through his own kind of scandal. By the time he was on his 3rd term, everybody knew he was struggling with coke and alcohol addiction. And this wasn't just any era. Crack had exploded across the country. By late 1989, federal officials were already investigating Barry for illegal drug possession. Then on January 18, 1990, the FBI and DC police set him up. They ran a sting operation at the Vista International Hotel. Barry was with his ex-girlfriend, Hazel Diane Rashida Moore. But what Barry didn't know was that she was an FBI informant. She invited him over, but there was a catch. Before they got intimate, she insisted he smoke freebase coke. Barry hesitated, but eventually he hit the pipe. And the FBI agents were watching the whole thing on camera. So the second he took a hit, they ran in and arrested him.
Mayor Barry was arrested last night at the Vista Hotel in downtown Washington.
Barry ended up facing 3 felony counts of perjury, 10 counts of drug possession,
Didn't they re-elect him
and
now?
1
Re-elect
misdemeanor conspiracy charge. But the trial was a mess. The jury was split. Some thought Barry was clearly guilty, but others believed the whole case was a setup. The judge eventually declared a mistrial. The scandal forced Barry to step down as mayor in 1990. But in a crazy turn of events, after everything, Barry came back and was elected mayor one more time.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, y'all. That was insane. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We on the road to 50K, and we out.